My name is Steve Erickson. I'm the Executive Director of North Hennepin Area Chamber of Commerce. We serve Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park, Maple Grove, and Osseo. And it's been our great pleasure for many years to work with the League of Women Voters to put on candidate forums. Lots of imitators, but there's only one League of Women Voters. This is where it's at. I would like to acknowledge our team, Joe Paquette, who is the chairman of our Government Affairs Committee, and the League of Women Voters team over there. And we've got a couple things going on tonight. We'll be starting with the council and then later on to the legislature. For now, I'm going to let the moderator for this evening take over, Kirsten Chomey. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Brooklyn Park, Osseo, and Maple Grove, I would like to welcome you to tonight's candidate forum. We're pleased to give you, the voters, the opportunity to get to know the men and women vying for your vote. Our #1 goal is community engagement of informed voters. We are so thankful to have you joined us. The League of Women Voters is an organization that is nonpartisan and volunteer-based. It is organized at the state, local, and national level to encourage citizens to participate in government. While the LWV members do study and take stance on issues, we do not endorse nor support political parties nor candidates. The LWV does encourage its members as individuals, as we encourage each of you, to get involved in your community and the political party of your choice. However, the views expressed in this forum are those of the individual candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters, nor of the North Hennepin Area Chamber of Commerce. By sponsoring this forum this evening, the League provides an opportunity for citizen participation and exposure to candidates, but again does not provide an endorsement. All viable candidates have been invited to participate this evening. We are about to start for the City Council members for Brooklyn Center. In tonight's forum, the candidates will start their opening statements that they all received, and their questions are received in advance prior to tonight for preparation, in which they have 1 minute to speak. Then our candidates will have up to 30 seconds to respond to each of the questions that are coming from the audience. Finally, they will be given 2 minutes for their final statements. I don't think it's 1 minute for your final statements. Candidates League would like to refrain you from making any personal attacks on your fellow candidates. I'd like to take a moment to point out our timekeeper for this evening. She's right there in the front row. She will let you know when you have 15 minutes, or 15 seconds too. My goodness. I think it's the weather. 15 minutes, yeah. 15 seconds to finish your final statements, and then she will show you when your time has expired. Please finish your statement at that time, as I will direct the next speaker's turn. Our ushers are handing out cards and pens as needed for your questions. Please, audience members, raise your hand to receive a card for our ushers to collect your questions so that I can ask them to the candidates. Please follow the following guidelines as set by our partnership. #1, the questions cannot be a personal attack on any candidate. #2, they cannot have already been asked. Questions of similar nature may be combined. And #3, please write legibly so that your concerns may be addressed this evening. If we can't read it, we're not going to ask it. For the audience members, please remember to turn off or silence all communication devices at this time. And the co-sponsors have all agreed that no unauthorized photography will take place during the forum, as it is distracting to the candidates. Remember that Channel 12 is broadcasting and rebroadcasting tonight's forum, and copies are available upon request to Channel 12. All right, our candidates for City Council for Brooklyn Center are Chris Lawrence Anderson, Alexander Koenig, who is not here this evening, Philip Gray, and Marquita Butler. We will now start with the first of the questions you received in advance. What knowledge, experience, or attributes do you possess that make you best person for this position that you are pursuing? Our first responder will be Ms. Anderson.
Thank you. As a 15-year volunteer in our city, I understand our form of government, the chain of command, if you will. At City Hall, nothing happens overnight, but if you have passion, persuasiveness, persistence, and patience, it can happen. It's one thing to have a vision and passion, but to actually accomplish that vision is entirely another. I possess both. First example, back about 2.5 years ago, when hookah lounges were popping up in surrounding cities, I brought as a work study session a topic that I thought was paramount to our community with all of the redevelopment, and that would be to not have hookah lounges in our community. I was able to discuss with the council that issue, and as a result, we will know there's a license and ordinance in place where we will not have hookah lounges and anything such. My attributes are passion, persuasiveness, persistence, and patience. And with these, anything is possible.
Thank you. Mr. Gray?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight, braving the weather. Knowledge, I have bachelor's degrees in marketing, communications, criminal justice, and an MBA in business marketing and strategy. Experience, I have experience in city, county, state government, educational, teaching and administration, private business experience, mediation, conflict resolution, restorative justice, community enrichment and empowerment, volunteerism in the community, and I've been a city resident and homeowner in this area for over 30 years. My attitude is sensible, positive, real, pragmatic, collaborative, working together, helping to identify and work with people for the goal or projects that I'm working on.
Thank you. Ms. Butler?
Good evening, everyone. My day-to-day job is working on building relationships, and I believe that this is a core attribute for any city council member as you're a representative of your community and an advocate for all of our citizens. Some of the other attributes I possess are passion, integrity, and organizational skills. And I believe that these attributes could be a very good asset for a council member. I hold a bachelor's degree of communications from Augsburg College and a master's in cultural and educational policy studies from Loyola University Chicago. I plan to utilize my corporate background and experience working in education to help shape the conversation surrounding Brooklyn Center's economic development. I plan to utilize my experience in partnership management to collaborate with city partners, progress community engagement, and enhance the image of Brooklyn Center. I'm a proud Centaur who has left Brooklyn Center and decided to come back to build my family in Brooklyn Center.
Thank you. Our next question. What are the most critical issues facing the city of Brooklyn Center over the next several years, and what policies will you support or initiate if elected to address these challenges? Our first responder will be Ms. Butler.
So as the national economy rebounds, we have to ensure that Brooklyn Center is participating in this recovery and that we don't get left behind. So I would support using financial incentives on City Council to attract businesses that will help grow our business tax base and attract more businesses to Brooklyn Center. We have to be more aggressive in competing with the neighboring cities. I believe Brooklyn Center is a very ideal location, and so I would support policies that help with the beautification and upkeep of our city so that we're attracting more homeowners and businesses. And then a third concern is our aging population. So as we consider supporting our aging residents in Brooklyn Center, making sure that our homeowners are able, that are in their homes are able to afford to stay in their homes if they choose, and also providing facilities for those that want to transition out of home ownership into assisted living, that we have those facilities in Brooklyn Center for them.
Thank you. Mr. Gray?
Critical issues that I see are business growth and jobs. I'm a big proponent of trying to get Brooklyn Center to establish business incubators to grow our own businesses here in Brooklyn Center, to create jobs through entrepreneurship, adequate rental housing and affordable housing, to establish some semblance of homeowners and renters and some semblance of community in that area. Again, working with our schools to make sure that we have about 8,000 students here, that 5,000 that come in every day to go to school, 3,000 that go out, and 2,000 that work in the schools. So we have about 10,000 people that are affected by the educational system. So we need to make sure that we're providing good education for 21st century needs in the workplace, the changing demographics here in Brooklyn Center, embracing the different minorities, the transportation, the light rail going through Brooklyn Park, not through Brooklyn Center, but making sure the Brooklyn Center is ready to deal with what happens in transportation.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. As a current city council member, I understand what critical issues that we have. I also know and understand that the city council is addressing many of these. Redevelopment is underway. There are many things that are progressing in that regard. Public safety, I think, is always of paramount importance. Crime in Brooklyn Center is at a 20-year low. Policies that I am very passionate about pursuing, obviously, is in money. 38% of our general budget is the police department. Ensuring that the community feels safe in their community is extremely important. I personally feel very safe, and I think that is something that ongoing that needs to continually be utilized. Secondly, rebranding. The city is currently underway with this initiative. I moved here in 1987 with my husband because of access to the freeways, the parks, and all the amenities that Brooklyn Center has. I know that we're a wonderful community, and we just need to better communicate this to members outside Brooklyn Center.
Thank you. Our city is made up of many races and cultures. What unique qualities would you bring to the city government that can bring these diverse groups together? First responder is Ms. Anderson.
Thank you. We have a very diverse city. We all know that. Issues regarding race, I certainly don't know what it's like to be black, nor do I know what it feels like to be here in a foreign country from a war-torn country fleeing civil unrest. But what I can bring to the table, and what I have brought to the table, is empathy. It may sound trite, but I have engaged many community members over the last several years, 15 years in volunteer service to our city. And I've actually listened and I've heard them. My personality is such that people, regardless of color, religion, gender, know that I care and that I want to help with solutions. Again, my motto is be part of the solution and don't perpetuate the problem. So I may not know what it's like, but I can listen and I can learn and I can better serve the community by doing so.
Thank you. Ms. Butler?
Yes. Diversity also means to create inclusion, create an atmosphere in which all people feel valued and respected and have the same opportunities as others. Going to Brooklyn Center High School, my classmates were very diverse, and I think that having such a diverse community is such an asset for Brooklyn Center. I've traveled to over 20 countries, reaching 6 continents, and I've also lived abroad and volunteered in the local community. So I know what it's like to be in a variety of settings. I believe that understanding that each group that's within Brooklyn Center have leaders within their groups, and bringing those leaders into some of our discussions that we have as a city would be a strong benefit. I also believe that if we are holding events, we should be holding a variety of events at different times of days and days of the week, so that we can include those that have a variety of schedules, and then also utilizing social media more to engage with the different groups and people of all ages. I think some of these things would make our city more successful in engaging the diversity of our community.
Thank you. And Mr. Gray?
Well, I've had quite a bit of experience working in different cultural communities. As a probation officer, I was an individual with a full Hmong caseload, which was difficult, but I managed to do that. I also worked as a cultural and community liaison for Hennepin County with a program where we were working with disparities. And what we were able to do was we were able to identify, again, cultural navigators in those different communities. We also did some of the foundational things, like we printed up everything in different languages. That's why when I'm out campaigning, I have flyers in every language, because I want to include everyone in my campaign. Again, it would not only allow us to communicate, but to have people at the meetings. One thing that I would like to do again is go out, find individuals in the different communities and invite them to our meetings, and then send those individuals back to their community, but also establish that two-way communication so that once they go back and they come back to us, we have information from that community.
Thank you. Traffic congestion on Highway 252 has been identified as a major issue for Brooklyn Center. What solutions would you propose to alleviate the congestion on 252? Our first responder is Mr. Gray.
Well, anyone in here that's traveled on 252 know it's a bottleneck, to say the least. And in doing a little bit of research, you find that it's the third, the fourth, the sixth, the 7th, the 14th, and the 18th highest volume of traffic in Minnesota going through that area. So the plan put forth, there's been plans put forth, there's been a lot of work in the city, but again, all of that's really preliminary, because any plan that we come up with, Brooklyn Park still hasn't come up with their information as to what they're gonna do. So right now, it's being studied by Hennepin County, the state, MnDOT, and I've actually had some opportunity to talk to people in the community, and I have 15 seconds left, and I'm actually going to throw out something that I heard, which was very cool. In Bloomington, if you go to Bloomington and you see the Mall of America, the way they have all of the different dedicated ramps, that's an idea that someone gave in one of the listening sessions that I had, and I would like to see something like that be utilized.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. 252, I personally do not have a solution to alleviate the congestion on 252. I'm not an engineer. However, I've been involved in the process for over 3.5 years. The solutions presented by contractors and staff were met with, shall we say, opposition. I realize it's impossible to please everyone, but plans were ill-conceived by a majority. For that reason, I think it's vital to obtain further information and concerns from the public before proceeding. Back several weeks ago, the city passed a motion that was twofold. One was to get 252 back on the radar with MnDOT, Hennepin County, and all the other stakeholders. However, in that same motion, it was approving the existing plan that had been presented. Being it was two issues in that motion, I support getting 252 on the radar. However, I did not support the position, the reconstruction plans that were proposed. The motion passed 4-1. The 252 corridor needs improvements, but it requires a plan with more buy-in from the community and further research.
Thank you. Ms. Butler?
Yes, and so in doing my research about the 252 congestion, I mean, growing up here, living here, we all know that traveling, if you have things you have to get to in Brooklyn Park, the traffic is horrible. There's been 6 fatal crashes since 2003. So I think the most important thing is safety and how we can create a safer crossing area for those residents that live across from Super America to the other side of 252. And I think the concerns of the citizens are valid, and in door knocking, I've come across quite a few people that were opposed to what has been proposed for the 252. So like Ms. Anderson, I don't have the answers. That's not my specialty, but if I was to be part of city council, I'd love to be a part of the research and finding a solution that we could get more buy-in from our community, because at the end of the day, I'm more concerned about what the community feels about it versus the people just passing through.
Okay. Local businesses are taxpayers, but often not voting residents. In what way will you reach out to best understand their needs and provide for fair representation in city council decision-making? Please share your thoughts. First responder is Ms. Anderson.
Thank you. The number one way to reach out to business owners is to be a customer. Support their businesses, speak to their managers, the owners, about their concerns. I have a unique work history as Director of Operations for a multi-million-dollar manufacturing company. With that experience, I spoke to many business owners. This experience allowed me a unique opportunity to firsthand knowledge as far as what business owners are concerned about. Number one is meeting payroll. Number two is growing their business and supporting the staff that they have. I possess the knowledge and the experience to understand business and how a successful business supports the local economy and the community as a whole. With that reason, I think that I really have a good understanding and can help businesses. Thank you.
Mr. Gray?
Well, Brooklyn Center is made up of many in our community that contribute to the well-being and safety of our community and the business quality of our community. Again, I feel that part of City Council's responsibility is to help set a table and set a foundation for businesses to be successful. Second, we have to make sure that in our community we're vibrant, that we are representative of all the residents. And finally, we can make sure that we attend business community meetings involving myself in the business community, joining business organizations like the BCBA, the Northwest Chamber, and hold listening sessions, which I have been doing to gather information from business owners to get the pulse of what it is that they're looking for in our community. That's how I would make sure that I'm giving business opportunities and businessmen the opportunity to have a voice at City Council.
Thank you. Ms. Butler.
Yes, our business community is very important to the growth and the direction of Brooklyn Center. So if I were to be elected in City Council, I would first like to understand why a lot of businesses continue to close and leave, which leaves us with yet another vacant lot or empty building. I'd also think it's important to understand why we're not attracting more businesses and they continue to pass us up and go to Brooklyn Park or Maple Grove. So after understanding those things, a few things that I think would be important as a city council is to have, to invite those businesses to come to city council meetings, to have sessions with them, like Mr. Gray had suggested, where we have dialogue, informal dialogue between the council and business owners in our community, and create partnerships that can have with local schools to have more education offered and some programs that we can help small businesses grow, will start and grow in Brooklyn Center.
All right, we're moving on to our 30-second questions from the audience. First one is, state your opinion on the 750 rental units proposed for the Brookdale Ford Brookdale Square site, or Brooklyn Square site. Our first responder is Ms. Butler.
Can you repeat the question?
Yep. State your position on the 750 rental units proposed for the Brookdale Ford Brooklyn Square site.
Well, good question. I know that a lot of our citizens have a concern with rental properties and the amount of rental properties we have in Brooklyn Center, but I think it's important to understand that we need affordable housing in Brooklyn Center. Not everyone can be a homeowner, and not everyone can afford to rent a home, and so having the spaces, having a building of that size can create space for more citizens to be in Brooklyn Center.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. The 750 units that are proposed are market rate apartments that will appeal to a different demographic within our community. We have Medtronic, we have FBI, we have people within our community that would like to have a different type of rental experience. I do support it. I think with the plans that are in place, it will be a beautiful community. It's on an opportunity site, and I encourage you to come to city council meetings and learn more about this project. It is not just another apartment complex, but it is a vision for recreating that particular empty space right now.
Thank you. Mr. Gray?
Well, 750 units seems like an awful lot of units to have in that concentrated of an area. So what I guess I would like to do more research on it, number one, find out how it will be supported, because again, 750 units, at times we will have some that may be empty. So is it going to be just units? Is it going to be mixed site where there'll be some type of retail, some type of business in to help support some of the tax base that'll be eroded by it not being filled? So I need to do more research on it, but right now I'm ambiguous.
Thank you. In light of the recent shootings of black males by police, what steps would you support to prevent these events from happening in Brooklyn Center? Our first responder is Mr. Gray.
Wow, that's
Good question.
being a black male, that's a great question. I think one of the biggest things that we have to do is what I see our police officers doing already. Establishing community relations, going out into the community, working with individuals in the community, knowing people by name, again, and again, not only taking the time, but also having the training to understand that the cultural differences and the cultural needs of those individuals that you serve.
Thank you. Ms. Butler?
Yes, I think first and foremost, everyone has an unconscious bias, and I think what's going on around the country is that we're not acknowledging that. And so I think just acknowledging that and educating ourselves about that bias and how that transitions into what we do in our job would be a big help. I think training to deal with high-risk situations, making sure our officers are highly trained. And third, the community engagement, which I do believe that our police officers are doing a good job in this community.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Could you please repeat the question?
Absolutely.
I think I've got it, but
Sure. In light of the recent shootings of black males by police, what steps would you support to prevent these events from happening in Brooklyn Center?
thank you. We have already taken many steps in Brooklyn Center. First off, the police department initiated, I believe it was 8 years ago, the neighborhood meetings where the police department and city staff go out into the community and communicate, relate to the members of that particular community. We have a community policing model. We have MAC, Multicultural Advisory Committee. We have the JCPP, Joint Community Police Partnership. We have a cadet program that seeks police officers that are non-white. Our police model has been recognized by many communities, and I think we're headed in the right direction, and I support our police department 100%.
Thank you. What is your position on affordable housing for special populations in Brooklyn Center, such as veterans, homeless youth, and minorities? First responder is Ms. Butler.
I do support having affordable housing for these populations. I do believe that one of my big initiatives would be to get more citizens on the road to home ownership. And so if we get these citizens into affordable housing, also establishing a program of how they can one day be homeowners in our community.
Thank you. Mr. Gray?
I think one of the greatest areas that we can work with is to identify those services and opportunities and programs that are already here. And again, so with homeless situations, we have Hennepin County that we could do better partnering and utilize resources better. I support anything that is for the betterment of people. And again, I think that if we utilize those things that we have available, we can do a better job at what we're trying to do with homeless and other individuals in that area.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. Affordable housing is obviously of key importance to any community. Our housing stock and many of our apartments are deemed to be affordable housing. I support that, but I also support a wide range of housing options for our community. So certainly I support everyone being in a place where they can live and afford, and I think our community does offer those amenities as it stands right now.
Residents often say they are not aware of what is happening in Brooklyn Center. Would you support an electronic sign to be placed at City Hall so that city events can be highlighted? Why or why not? First responder is Mr. Gray.
Well, I think we do have a marquee out front. I'm not sure how electronic it is, but I'm not sure if there's a guy out there putting letters up, but I know there's one out there. But again, I think one of my areas is marketing, and I believe, again, that if you're trying to include everyone, you have to make sure that everyone has not only access to your information, but when the information is given to them, that it's in a language or whatever it is that can communicate that with those individuals. And so what I do is the flyers and the information in all of the different languages.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. Certainly, I support that, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's in the works. I don't know how soon it'll happen, but it is something that I certainly support. Getting information out to everyone is a challenge, and I think the city can certainly do a better job at that. I think the website needs to be better utilized with language options, but getting people engaged there's never one solution that is going to work. But an electronic sign out front is a first step.
And Ms. Butler?
I would support an electronic sign. I don't think you can over-communicate city events so that we can get the more citizens to be involved. As I've been attending events through this campaigning process, I'm noticing it's the same people attending the event. So if an electronic sign would get us more of a bigger turnout, I would definitely support that.
Thank you. A reminder to silence your phones. Brooklyn Center City Council has discussed changing the smoking age and sale of smoking products. As a council member, will you support this change? Ms. Anderson?
That topic has been discussed at the city council level, and I'd like to remind everyone that, you know, the tobacco ordinance change I initiated. I had a teenage daughter in high school at the time, and I learned what they were doing with little cigarellos. As far as the age, I think part of it's education, but I think the age of 18 is the age of consent. So I wouldn't support it, but I do not support smoking in any way, shape, or form.
Ms. Butler?
I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar with what the age change would be, so I'm not sure, I can't really answer confidently that I would support it because I don't know what the age would be, so,
Neither does your moderator.
sorry.
Well, for me, that was my first question, to what? You know, change it to what? So I think right now it's 18. I'm confident and cool with 18. I don't support smoking, but if you are going to smoke, that is the age that I think has been, as far as consent and what have you. But I don't smoke. It's probably the best thing I can say. I don't know what you would change it to other than 18.
All right. Would you support developing higher-end housing on Lindale Avenue North along the Mississippi Riverfront in Brooklyn Center? Why or why not? Mr. Gray?
Well, again, I think that would require us to do some studies. I guess I'll say up front that I'm the type of an individual that I don't make decisions without looking at all of the information and putting all the information on the table and going to all sides to get information. So if that's something that this community could support with individuals who had that type of income to be in a place like that, I could support it. If it went the other way, I'm fine that way as well.
Ms. Butler?
Yes, I agree that more research would have to be done. I think one of our biggest challenges for Brooklyn Center is that the external image is not a positive one. And so to attract citizens that are willing to pay higher housing, we would need to, I think, change the image and improve the image of our Brooklyn Center. So before I would support that, I would like us to take some steps in improving that image externally.
Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. Could you repeat that?
Would you support developing higher-end housing on Lindale Avenue North along the Mississippi Riverfront in Brooklyn Center?
Thank you. I had it, I just wanted to make sure. I think demand, supply and demand, if there's a desire for that, I think as a city, we certainly need to offer that. We have to provide options for people anywhere from low income and affordable to upscale. There are people with means within the city that would like to live and move to a different community. I think we need to support all venues, but the demand will certainly necessitate how the city moves forward.
Thank you. How will you reduce crime around our biggest hotspots, such as the transit hub? First responder is Ms. Butler.
Yes, you know, in participating on some of the social media sites, crime seems to be, even though they're saying that our crime level is low, that still seems to be a common theme that people are concerned about, specifically the transit area. And I think working with the police department, I know they're already doing a great job of monitoring that area, but seeing what else we can do to beef up more patrols or monitoring of the space so that people feel safe and will continue to use it.
Thank you. Mr. Gray.
Well, crime around the transit hub. I actually had someone tell me about lighting and making sure that the transit hub is lit so that when you are there, you can be seen and there's no corners to hide and all of those different things. Again, working with MTC for transit police. But I think one other idea that just kind of crossed me is there's really not anything there other than transferring on and off buses and what have you. Why not put some type of a shop there that would have, you know, snacks or whatever in the transit center, just to make sure that there's someone there and always a level of supervision there.
Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. Certainly, I support crime reduction throughout the entire community. The transit hub is the reality of Brooklyn Center. The Metropolitan Council placed it here, and they have their security officers in Met Transit. Brooklyn Center also has dedicated 3 police officers to patrol that particular area of town, the commercial areas. If anyone has a solution how to reduce crime 100%, I want to hear it. I think it's very important. I think we can do as much as we possibly can to alleviate that concern and ensure safety.
Okay. Why do you think businesses are either leaving or closing in Brooklyn Center? How can we turn this around in 30 seconds? Ms. Butler.
Feedback that I've gotten through campaigning is that the taxes are too high, and there's not a lot of people are simply not choosing to shop in their community. People are choosing to go out of their community. So I guess encouraging people to shop, play, eat in their community, as well as working on what type of incentives that we can have to help stabilize our businesses in the community.
Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. Again, this is a very complicated issue. It can't be adequately dealt with in 30 seconds. However, I know that our community development director is doing a wonderful job. The best thing, and the number one reason, is probably demographics. We need to shop here. We need to do whatever we can to support our community, support our businesses. The City Council and the EDA have TIF programs in place to try and encourage businesses to come here, but we need to shop here and we need to support our local businesses.
Thank you. Mr. Gray?
Well, in talking to individuals, well, first of all, there's so many different great programs here to start a business that it's something that needs to be researched by individuals that are looking to start businesses. But some of the reasons that I've heard are fees and taxes, safety, lack of differentiation, meaning there's not a lot of different businesses that you can go to. So if you want to go somewhere to get something, you go to a different city. We're not open for business. And finally, individuals have stated that they feel as if the city doesn't care, and there's kind of a ambivalence that if they leave, they'll be replaced, so they leave.
And what a perfect follow-up. What incentives do you favor to attract or retain those businesses? Let's start with Mr. Gray.
Well, again, I think we have to use the things that we have that are available. My mom always said have kind of a common sense approach to things, and if it's already built, you don't reinvent the wheel or rebuild another place. So we have open for business. We have consortiums of individuals that are willing to help. We have SCORE and all of these different individuals and groups that can help start businesses, attract businesses, and keep businesses. And we have to patronize our businesses. When they're here, we have to buy things from them to keep them here in Brooklyn Center.
Ms. Butler?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Mm-hmm. What incentives do you favor to attract or retain those businesses?
Yes, I think promoting already established programs would be one. Creating, like I said, relationships with the local community colleges to help businesses be sustainable. And then, in some cases, tax incentives, because that seems to be the highest driver out of town. So having tax incentives to encourage businesses to start and stay in Brooklyn Center.
Okay. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. Attracting and retaining businesses is an issue for many communities. Brooklyn Center, our community image, is something that the City Council is working on very actively. We have great promotional materials I've seen that are sent out to developers. I think, again, we need to promote and support the businesses that are here. If there's something that isn't here, let city staff know. Our community development specialists would be more than happy to hear it. But that's the number one key, is just supporting the businesses that are here, and they will stay.
Okay. In keeping up with supporting local businesses, tell me what your favorite restaurants are to visit in Brooklyn Center. That's my favorite question. Ms. Anderson, you get the first response.
Well, as a long-term resident, I mean, 50's Grill, I mean, you can't beat that. I love that facility. Applebee's, Chipotle, Qdoba. I think there are very few restaurants in town that I haven't attended. I'm not a huge fan of Indian food, sorry, so I'm at a disadvantage there, but we do have some good choices. We need better and more, not better, but more choices to choose from.
Mr. Gray?
Well, you know, my list is kind of long here,
Go
so
ahead.
We only have 30 seconds.
only got 30 seconds. So, well, Jammin' Wings, tacos off the chain. Slims, great burgers, great wings. Great India, I even found a non-spicy Indian dish called butter chicken. And finally, Stella's Kitchen, a new restaurant that's in the area. So,
All right. Ms. Butler?
50s Grill is definitely one of my favorites. I love the shakes, the malts. Great India, I love to go there during their lunchtime buffet. And for nostalgia's sake, Scoreboard.
Oh, there you go. Currently, city advisors, commission members can serve continuously for decades. Would you work for service time limits for commissioners? Okay. Seems oddly worded to me, but okay. First responder is Mr. Gray.
for commissioners?
No, for commission staff.
Commission staff members.
No.
You mean like on one of the commissions of the city? Like Park Commission?
Appointed commissions.
Appointed.
Can you repeat that?
Well, that's,
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay, thank you.
Right now, they can serve continuously for decades. Would you would you be in favor of time limits for these commission positions? There you go. We need to rewrite that.
That's a tough question, because when you're dealing with individuals that are volunteering, it's kind of hard to say no to a volunteer, on the one hand. But on the other hand, if you have an individual that's been volunteering for 30 years, at some point, it's time maybe to get someone new in that situation. Again, I would have to take it case by case and look at the individual person that we're looking at replacing or reappointing, and see how we could better fit. Maybe we could move them to another commission. But again, when you're regulating volunteers, that's kind of tough, especially when you have someone who's taking their time and not
Thank you.
being paid.
Thank you. Ms. Butler?
I think it's as well a delicate situation, because these people are obviously very passionate about our city and we don't want to drive them away. But I do think it's important that we engage fresh ideas, and so there definitely needs to be a limit. I'm not sure what that limit, a reasonable limit would be at this time, but I do feel that there should be a limit in order to get fresh ideas and have more community engagement and more people involved.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Okay. Again, it's a very difficult question. I personally was a volunteer on the Housing Commission for 12 years, I believe, but that's 3 terms. You need a balance between experience, people that have seen what works and what doesn't work, but you also need fresh ideas. I personally, as a member of the Housing Commission, did not grow stagnant. The New Neighbor Welcome Program was created under my leadership, and we developed the first community garden. So there's a balance there, and I don't know what the answer is. I think you need new ideas and experience to be successful.
Okay. Our final 30-second question. What do you feel the city council's role is in helping the schools work together? First responder is Ms. Butler.
Yeah, so being in education, I have seen a lot of the disparities, particularly in minorities, in the education gap. And I think that building partnerships within the different school districts to work together, specifically in the summertime, and provide some academic enrichment, work with the schools to provide academic enrichment through the city in partnership with the schools, can help with closing that achievement gap, or at least chipping away at it.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes. Supporting our youth is extremely important. The City Council has an allegiance with the Brooklyn Bridge Alliance. The facility on Brooklyn Center High School site is facility that can be used by anyone within the community. I think working with the schools, the rec department, as well as, Youth and Government Day. The city council brings in a youth, we sit with them, we mentor them, and I think it's just active engagement in mentoring our youth, and that's something that the city council can certainly encourage and work to develop further.
Thank you. Mr. Gray?
Can you read that again?
Yeah. What do you feel the city council has as a role in helping the schools work together?
Well, I think the city council as kind of a conduit can put together partnerships between schools, the business community, and the overall community. As I'm actually an administrator at a school. I'm a work-based learning coordinator, and we work with what's called the world's best workforce, 21st century learning and all of those buzzwords. But ultimately, what we're doing is putting together partnerships with business, schools, and kids, so that kids have the training that they need to move into the jobs of the future. As again, as our population ages, we have to have individuals that can step into those jobs, and that's
Okay.
what we're doing.
All right, we got one more 30-second question. What steps would you take to help create more diversity within the City Hall staff? First responder is Ms. Anderson.
To create more diversity with the city council,
City
or
Hall.
city hall staff,
Yep.
I think it's obviously needed. Our staff needs to reflect the community that we serve. But you also have to look at application experience, and you can't be biased either way. I think it's just critical that you look at the applicants and that they are the best candidate for the job. And if they are of color, that's terrific. But you look at staff qualifications and experience first and foremost, besides just the exterior.
Mr. Gray?
Well, our efforts have to be targeted, focused, strategic. We have to use unconventional methods to attract people to come to work here. We have to do what was done back in the 1930s and 40s, create a Marshall Plan to bring people in here that want to work in the city. We can use, we can go to historically black colleges, places like that, to attract individuals of color. So it's not a situation that we don't have the applicants. We have to do a different style of outreach because, again, we're looking for a different kind of candidate than what we have.
Ms. Butler?
Yes, feedback that I've gotten is that, it's kind of like the same circle of friends that giving each other jobs. And I think, like the other candidates have said, the promoting. So promoting at local colleges, within organizations. I think promoting is probably our biggest key. And then establishing partnerships with the different groups, diverse groups that are in our area. We have the Black MBAs, we have the Twin City Black Professional Network. So there's several established organizations that can help with getting qualified applicants.
Thank you. We're now moving on to our closing statements, in which you have 1 minute to say anything left there is to address. We're going to go in the reverse order from where we started. So our first speaker is Marquita Butler.
So you've heard me list some of my attributes and why I'm running for city council, but to put it all together, I'm a hard worker and I'm ambitious, and I think these two things would make me successful in city council. I grew up here and attended school here, and I'm one of the best advocates for Brooklyn Center because of this. I am looking towards the future and what I know Brooklyn Center can be. We need to revisit the mission of Brooklyn Center to ensure an attractive, clean, safe, and inclusive community that enhances the quality of life for all people. As a city council member, I will work on getting rid of the unattractive vacant lots, breaking down barriers for the small and big businesses to come to Brooklyn Center and flourish, to encourage incentives to attract successful businesses. I'd utilize my partnership and community engagement experience to enhance the community engagement and diverse representation of the city. Lastly, I will advocate to use social media more to engage our community and continue to hold meet and greet opportunities for city leadership in the community. Thank you.
Philip Gray?
Well, first, again, thank you all for coming out tonight. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and let you know a little bit about me. What I actually think is I believe the city can move forward by embracing its people and empowering its people. My plan is to make myself available through listening sessions. I have been doing some around the city, and on Saturdays, I'm basically coming out to hear what you think. By coming to the community, I feel that I can have a direct impact on what we do in this city because I'm learning from you. I'm poised to work with you as a community. I feel that you have the answers, and as a public servant, it would be my job to talk to you and get the answers from you where you live, because of course, you know the answers in your community. You are the community experts on what's going on in your community. You have the pulse. You know what you need. We have many cultures here in Brooklyn Center. We all work, play, and stay in this great city. I think we can show the rest of this city, the rest of the state, and even this country how people can come together, work together, and move forward in positive and productive ways. I want to help Brooklyn Center move forward right here, and I thank you.
And Alexander Koenig is not here this evening, but I'm sure if you would like to contact him with your concerns and questions, he will answer them. And our final speaker this evening is Ms. Chris Lawrence Anderson.
Thank you. Well, I've been here since 1987. It was my first home, and it will be my final home. I can serve this city and this community the same way I have since 2001 when I started my volunteer within this community, by being engaged, committed, and supportive member of this community. These attributes, passion, engagement, commitment, and support, are what will move our city forward. It's getting others to come along to see this vision. Through community activism, the goal of making Brooklyn Center a great place to stay will be achieved. I hope I have the honor of serving Brooklyn Center for another 4 years. I believe I have proven my commitment to BC and have the passion to move Brooklyn Center into a prosperous future. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Brooklyn Park, Osseo, Maple Grove, and the North Hennepin Area Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to thank the candidates for agreeing to participate in tonight's forum. I would like to thank the audience for attending and participating by submitting excellent questions, and I would like to thank the viewing audience as well. Remember, if we could not get to your questions tonight or have further questions for the candidates, we invite you to contact them directly with your concerns. Please remember to go out and vote on Tuesday, November 8th, as your vote truly counts. Thank you and have a wonderful evening. We'll have the next one in about 15 minutes.